So, Jeremy was saying we can talk about some manga. I will do that after I give a brief update on Welcome to Japan myself. Jeremy feared that it wasn't a real reverse isekai, but was in fact only an isekai and the title was a scam. Having caught up, I have learned that it is not, in fact, a scam. It is a reverse isekai with regular isekai elements because they go back to the dream world, other world, for lack of a better phrase. The following episode after where me and Jeremy left off was basically entirely in the other world. Or in Japan, rather. And they actually go to the library. And I was like, oh, I understand the library because they wanted to get Marie some books to help her learn Japanese. The thing I didn't like about that was they were like, oh, we'll get her some children's books to have her learn Japanese. And they go to check out the books. And our boy introduces her as like a distant relative coming to visit. And this librarian is like an old friend of his, I guess. I guess he used to frequent the library. And makes a comment about how pretty she is and how she finds it strange that they haven't gotten together. And I'm like, he just introduced her as a relative. And now you're asking about dating. What in the Alabama?
Anime.
Sorry, Alabama, but like Jeremy just says that's anime. I was, I know technically it's okay because they're not related, but you know, if someone introduces you that way, I think it's weird. And that's a thread that continued through the rest of the few episodes I watched, which did fluctuate pretty evenly between Japan and the other world. I will say that it continued its generally sweet tone and the friendly banter between them and those sorts of things, and also tried to expand Marie's relations in Japan so it wasn't just her with the main character all the time. And I did like that. I think that what was rough was that it had been so long since I watched it with Jeremy that I didn't remember where the last episode left off and I was kind of caught off guard. But other than that, still remains good, still remain happy, and I didn't have to wait on him to watch it, which is the best part.
Wait on me to watch it.
Wait on him to watch it. He's protesting. Don't listen to him. Now, and by we I mean me being an avid reader, can't always afford to buy all the books I want to read because books are expensive. So Jeremy and I went to the library so we could get some reading material, and we just kind of scrounged around for whatever we could find. I've already read a handful of the things we've picked up. There will be full reviews forthcoming at some point. But one of the ones I read was the first two of The Girl from the Other Side, which is basically like there's the insiders, which are basically humans, and the outsiders, which are monsters that are cursed and can spread the curse to anyone they touch. So these two groups don't live together. They don't mingle with each other. And the humans especially hate the outsiders and fear them. But for whatever reason, I'm not going to spoil it because it is revealed in the first manga.
Volume.
Yes, that. There's this little girl living in the outside with Teacher, which is the big demon boy here. And it kind of explores their relationship and the meaning behind it and those sorts of things. And it's a lot of stuff about like xenophobia and fears of things that you don't understand or don't know, and just being unwilling to broaden your horizons and get to know other people because of what you've been told before. And the first thing I said to Lakota once I read them was, thank goodness I didn't buy them. Each of them didn't even take me an hour each. And I would have been very upset if I spent $15 on a book and I read it in less than an hour. I'll get into more details in my full-length reviews, but the other thing that I had a really hard time with is just the art is a lot of stuff like this where it's just very dark and hard to make out. And it reminded me of, you know, like when you would go to your grandmother's house and she had her, or at least I went to my grandmother's house. She had a desk, like a writing desk.
Why is a raven like a writing desk?
And she had all these like fancy pens, but I could never use them. They were like the really runny, finicky kind. So if you didn't use them perfectly.
Like gel pens? I like gel pens.
No, not gel pens. Like the runny pens that just made messes if you didn't use them properly. That's what it made me think of. But we'll talk more about it later.
Yeah, it's very thick line work. You know, this actually reminds me of a lot of the ones that I was reading for my graphic narrative class. So like, what is the guy's name?
Eisner?
Yeah, Eisner. Wrote.
Not the Disney one, a different one.
Yeah, different one. He wrote.
Will Eisner?
Yes. Will Eisner wrote Contract with God. And I read that for my graphic narrative class. And that was very like heavy ink line work, very like symbolic, where I was using a lot of heavy blacks to outline stuff. And this is very reminiscent of that style if I was going to compare it to something. Not my favorite style.
No, I honestly thought it detracted from the story.
I can see why some people go with this. They're going for a certain like aesthetic that they're looking for, and a mood that they're trying to set. And Eisner was very good at that. He was very good at making it look very runny and making the heavy blacks and making the shading matter for the artwork. And this seems like it's like that too, because the main, I don't know, it's the main bad thing.
Well, the monster isn't bad.
He's
it's actually the girl's guardian.
Business suit. Well, the guardian guy, he's just all shadow for the most part. So it's kind of interesting when they show him with a very black background, but they still make him stand out, which is kind of cool. You're not even doing it with the pen marks. You're doing it with white space. So expert use of white space is impressive when you're in a limited medium like this, where it's just the two colors.
Okay, nerd.
But so we have some other ones. You started some of them.
I've completed some of them.
You finished.
I finished these two.
Smoking Behind the Supermarket with You.
Which was actually a lot more enjoyable than I thought it would be, because the premise is pretty bland. Basically, there's this 45-year-old office worker. It's always an office worker or a salaryman. I guess they're the same thing, really.
But being 45 is kind of cool. That makes me more appreciate the storytelling, because it's like an older protagonist.
Likes this girl at the supermarket.
You're just like, continued. No response.
No, it's true, because we don't see a lot of manga that has anyone remotely close to our age bracket as a main character. It's teenagers and 20-somethings, and we are not either of those things.
Yeah. And
contrary to popular belief.
I can appreciate that in anime, and I think there's a little part of me when I watch a lot of anime now that's like, you loud kids just like banging into stuff, making noise. I see some more protagonists that are like, hey, I'm like 36, I'm 39, I'm 46. Like, we're dealing with real life problems, and then a thing happens.
Well, like Headhunted had an older protagonist.
But that was boring.
Shield Hero, I think. The Shield Hero was a little older.
Was he, though?
I thought... Or was it we thought he was older, but he wasn't? I can't remember if he was actually older or we just thought he was older.
I honestly don't remember how old the Shield Hero is. I'll look it up.
But, so we like that aspect of this. But, like, when you first read it, or the synopsis, it's essentially two people decide to smoke together behind a supermarket, and they talk to each other, which in the grand scheme of things does not sound interesting, but it manages to be. And I think part of the appeal of something like this is how
he's 20.
Oh, excuse me. But he looks older. He does look older. Real and natural.
That's just him being tired.
These conversations are, and how you can see it happening. And I'll talk about that more when I do the full review, which I have written but not recorded yet.
Philo's age is listed as less than 1.
Well, yeah, she hatched from an egg, man. Spoilers.
What? She's a bird.
Yeah, she hatched from an egg.
Yeah.
I just said that.
That's not a spoiler. Birds come from eggs. That's where they come from.
Well, maybe the people didn't know she was a bird that hatched from an egg.
But yeah, so this looks interesting. I'm planning on reading this. We're planning on reading these together. I don't think I'm gonna read this one, but just from looking at it, I don't think I'm gonna read the other side one because I don't really like it. As much as I just talked about how amazing it is to do certain things with that medium, with all the shadows and all that stuff. I don't like it. So this seems interesting, though. I like the design of the love interest, I guess.
No.
The friend interest. The smoker. I like how the side. I don't know if this is an organizational thing for the library. Is it? Yeah. So they have like a shortening version of the title on the side, and it says like Girl Volume 1. This one says smoking. It just says smoking, no volume, nothing. It's like a content warning. There's smoking in this.
Oh no.
So I'm gonna flip through. I'll pick them in order. Actually, no, this one's fine. So this one is one I was kind of interested in for a romantic aspect. It's also has some stuff in color, which is kind of nice. Not very much, but there is some stuff in color. And it's just a nice traditional manga art style, I feel. It is called Wotakoi. Love is Hard for Otaku, Volume 1 by Fujita. No last name, like Bono or Cher. And it's just it looks like a romance thing. Like the back says Narumi Momose has had it rough. Every boyfriend she's had dumped her once they found out she was an otaku. Because nobody likes girls that are into anime. That is unrealistic, apparently. So she's gone to great lengths to hide it. When a chance meeting at her new job with childhood friend, fellow otaku, and now co-worker, Hirotaka Nafuji, almost gets her secret outed at work, she comes up with a plan to make sure he never speaks up. But he comes up with a counter proposal. Why doesn't she just date him instead? In love, there are no save points.
I see what they did there.
Is Japan ashamed of anime? It seems like they're ashamed of anime.
But they also
make so much
anime.
of it. Yeah, because they're like, people buy this stuff. And other countries buy it. Come, America, give us money. Daddy America, give us money. But it seems like they always frame it like, oh, if you're into anime, you're a loser. You're a NEET. You're an otaku. You're a hikikomori. You have no life because you like anime in every storyline. So I don't know if it's just because all these storylines are based off of, prior to the Marvel Cinematic Universe where everybody's into nerd stuff now, or what it is. But they seemed very ashamed of anime.
Keep talking. I'm looking for
you took my visual aid.
Publishing details. Okay. First published in Japan in 2016 by Ichi Jinsha Inc. Tokyo.
Hey, that's not Fujita.
No, it's over here. Another one. Volume 1, copyright 2015 to 2016.
Yeah,
English translation, copyright 2018.
I didn't actually think that they were written before the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm just saying it seems like they're talking about a world prior to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel like once that hit, everybody's into nerd stuff now. Like San Diego Comic-Con is mainstream, and people like well-known actors and actresses do cosplay now, and every streamer's into anime. Even if they don't actually watch anime, they want to pretend that they do because it's cool. So I feel like it's just weird that they always frame it as, oh, I watch anime and play video games. I am weird and an outcast and nobody wants to date me.
Well, I mean, no one wants to date me, and I like anime and nerd stuff. I
got you into a lot of your anime nerd stuff, though. Elaine was not an anime watcher prior to our relationship, and now she does nothing but watch anime in her free time.
So before I started dating you in general, I basically didn't watch television. I just read stuff. So I read manga. Like my first manga was Tokyo Mew Mew, and then I think it was Chobits. was the second one I read. And then I did Shugo Karo was one of the first anime I watched, other than Sailor Moon, which was,
the fact that you could basically count on one hand the amount of anime you watched prior to our relationship shows how little anime you watched prior to our relationship.
Because I read stuff. See, Jeremy, we're different.
It would take me a while. It would take me a while to go through. I actually used to read too, but then I was like, that takes a lot of time. It's easier to listen to it and only get 50% of what I'm listening to. And then I can re-listen to the story because I can get all the bits. But see, there's some colored parts in this. But it's still basically the same artwork. It's slightly different artwork. I feel like when it's in the color, it's a little softer in the line work. Like it doesn't look... If you had this art style and the colored art style next to each other... with different characters, like you didn't know it was the same thing. Would you say that this was the same manga?
Not necessarily. I think the shapes are similar enough where you might be able to guess they're from the same illustrator.
Like if it was multiple choice, then you'd be like, okay, yeah, those two are the ones that are the same manga. But I feel like if you just independent of each other, just looked at this set of panels and this set of panels, you would not realize that it was the same book. Because they definitely they didn't just color in the black and white is kind of what I'm striving at.
But I think with black and white, you do different things for texture. Like the faces, when they're colored, look a little flatter to me because of how you do like definition in black and white, which you wouldn't necessarily do in color because you're using different colors to create definition and therefore don't have to create the line.
Oh, he did the thing where he stuck his hand on the wall and stopped her from moving. He was like, hey.
You shall not pass.
So moving beyond that one, you started that one. You were reading the volume 1. But The Water Dragon's Bride, I don't know if I'll read this. But
I don't think you'll like it. I think it's aimed at young women.
It looks like this is a book for 5-year-olds.
So I started reading this morning, and...
Too many words for a 5-year-old.
The premise is this girl is just living with her family when one day water steals her. We're reading a lot of stuff with sketchy water lately. So water steals her, and she wakes up in this world, appears in this world that she doesn't find familiar, this area she doesn't find familiar. And she starts panicking and looking for her parents and crying because, she's a little girl who doesn't have her parents anymore. And she's found by 2 children, one of which is afraid of her because she looks a little different because of her bright hair color. And one who is not afraid of her and is just like, she misses her parents, she's scared. Let's take her home. So the 2 kids take her home, and then their parents reluctantly take her in and pretend that she's their daughter just until they can find her actual parents. And then one day, the mom gets the bright idea to sacrifice this girl to the water dragon god and make her his bride in the hopes that her family will continue to be prosperous and that their village will continue to thrive. And the son is not very happy with this because he liked her, I guess just at this point as friends because they're small children. And it's the story of... I guess I have to think about Kana and that other girl, but anyway. He vows revenge. And then she goes off to live with this dragon god who finds this all very amusing. And that's all I got. That was basically chapter 1. I guess I'll finish it and see if I decide to go any further than that. And eventually I'll give it my full thoughts. But, yeah. I don't even know why I picked this one up, to be honest.
I don't know why either.
It's for teens, apparently.
Those are older than 5-year-olds. It's got penguins.
It's got penguins. Yeah, it's just one of those zany little manga where they throw a bunch of stuff in it. Even the stuff on the back seems zany. I don't know. I kind of like her outfit. She looks like a little demon girl. I don't have much more to say than that. Wow.
So, we just saw something not very YouTube friendly, though relevant to the Philo figure that we were unboxing before.
Call back.
So
That's one I found on the internet and was going to eventually buy for Jeremy.
what is this? What is this Skate the Infinity shit that's going on right here?
And suggested it for him because we saw it there. There are a few other things that I was thinking of getting you to at the library, and you were like, I wouldn't read that. I was like, oh, okay.
This looks interesting. What is the premise behind this? It's got a fancy J in the front.
Fancy J.
Japan has been invaded by gods, and they've left nothing but death and destruction in their wake. I can't read, apparently. With entire cities now classified as uninhabitable danger zones, researcher, long Japanese name, is determined to find a way to take down the gods and save humanity. When chance leads him to high school or other long Japanese name, this one feminine, the two just may end up changing the fate of the world forever. Desperate for answers about her friend's disappearance, Waka, which is the second Japanese name, breaches the Tokyo danger zone in search of clues. Instead, she finds Tokunaga, a researcher with Anti-God Scientific Research Institute. While Waka tries to decide if she should trust Tokinga, he quickly realizes Waka is hiding a dangerous secret of her own. One that may just be the key to killing off the gods once and for all. We're going to kill some gods.
Godzilla.
And the sequel to this is God is Not Dead. And that's where that movie franchise came from. This was the prequel.
Oh.
Yeah, Kevin Sorbo's not in this one.
Oh.
The rumors were true. You really are a god. Page 1. You're beautiful. This is interesting.
It's true.
So is each of the chapters like a different god?
I don't know like anything about this because it was actually surprisingly hard to find online until I went to Amazon. So I just heard it was good and was like, Jeremy would like that.
Got some kind of effed up stuff in it.
Well, you liked effed up things, so, you know.
Oh, so this will be interesting. I like this. I think this is a good concept. Is this the second one of that? No. Okay. This is Heavenly Delusion, which we had we had seen I think it was a Mother's Basement video on the anime adaptation at one point. And he was complaining how it wasn't marketed very well, and I think it was on Disney. That was another complaint. And they were marketing it as Heavenly Delusion rather than its Japanese name or something. Or they were marketing it as its Japanese name and nobody knew that because everybody knows it as Heavenly Delusion.
Because we American.
America. But yeah, this is supposed to be a good anime. It's about a colliding worlds filled with unique horrors. Wow. Yeah, it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of thing. But it seems kind of interesting. I heard it was fun. We have the first 2 volumes. So
Courtesy of the library.
And then I grabbed Vinland Saga,
which is a thick book.
It's a thickums. Everyone says that this is good. So we're going to start with the manga before I start watching the anime. I think
it's only 2 seasons anime.
Yeah. So 2 seasons, probably like, I don't know, 8 volumes. But I think it continues. I don't think the 2 seasons are just the end of it.
No, I don't either.
I think it's just had 2 seasons so far. But so Vinland Saga, it's about Vikings. That's all I know about it. But, you know, Viking stuff's popular.
Viking, the manga.
And then you had that one over there, which I can't reach.
So this one I pre-ordered a while ago when I found it on Crunchyroll. And it looked cool. It sounded cool. Basically, there's a world where human rights aren't guaranteed. And if you don't have any rights, you're a Mujina, where you're not protected from the law or by the law and you can do whatever. Sounds interesting as a concept, but I feel like, and I'll talk about this in a review because I wrote one for this one too.
Just not filmed.
The author, Inio Asano, who also did A Girl on the Shore, just, you know, for frame of reference, forgot there was supposed to be a story involved in this one. So a lot of the beginning is just violence, like people fighting and assassination attempts and assassinations. And then we have these little stretches where the author talks about this world a little bit and develops the idea of the Mujina and how they don't have rights and whether or not people think they should have rights or be heard or be seen, if they should be eradicated. And then it goes back to just more shock value stuff with gory, violent fight scenes and crime and people with questionable morals. And I found myself very frustrated by this volume, which I think had a good concept but was not carried out or executed very well. I think it depended too much on shock value and not enough on substance. And that bothered me. And spoilers, I won't be reading anymore. Maybe you'll get more out of it than me, but I doubt it. So that's what that was. A disappointment, Jeremy.
Disappointment.
I'm not even angry. I'm disappointed, which is worse.
That is worse.